This is a Nice Guys Patreon exclusive.
Welcome to another Ice Guys team season preview video. 32 teams in 32 days rolls along. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and you can see in the background all the Canucks paraphernalia, the Mogilny jersey, retro Mogilny jersey, and our friend Rich H. from Van City. It can only mean one thing. It's time to talk about the Vancouver Canucks for the upcoming season. Rich, good to see you again. How are you? Things good?
Things are great and wonderful to be here. Thanks. Excited and good to see you both.
No doubt. And excited to see what becomes of this 2025-2026 edition of the Vancouver Canucks, who, of course, enter this season with a new head coach in Adam Foote after Rick Tocchet parted ways with the Canucks. And he, of course, now in Philadelphia with the Philadelphia Flyers. Adam Foote, an assistant under Tocchet here these last couple seasons with the Vancouver Canucks. Certainly was a great defenseman back in his day as a player. Going back to his days with the Colorado Avalanche, it's just going to be as the bench boss, the main bench boss. How does he handle it this year? Vancouver, obviously, last year, disappointment for sure with what we saw from the Canucks. They finished the season with 90 points, only above Anaheim, Seattle, San Jose in the Pacific Division. It'll be interesting to see how this roster comes together. A lot of pressure on Mr. EP40 here. It goes without saying, and Elias Pettersson, a man that rightfully so got criticized quite a bit last year in terms of just not being hard enough to play against, not being good enough at both ends of the ice. The concerns about just how durable he was, to the latter part of the season, and they certainly need him to play up to the money that he is being paid very handsomely, I might add, by the Vancouver Canucks brass and Patrick Allvin. So, like I said, it's for any success that the Vancouver Canucks are going to have this season, it's going to start with Elias Pettersson playing like an elite top-line center. It's got to start there for the Vancouver Canucks without question. I'm very happy for the loyal diehard Canucks fans like Rich and everybody else that they re-signed Brock Besser, because it wasn't looking good for a while. As far as Brock Besser being returning to the Canucks, we saw all the rumblings that maybe he'd go back to his home state, maybe signed with the Minnesota Wild, but didn't happen. He ended up re-upping with the Vancouver Canucks, and that is a very big positive development for the Canucks going into this season. And there's very good potential with what I think could be the top line with Pettersson if he gets back into form. Besser and DeBrusk. You got a little something there to work with. We'll see what they get out of Evander Kane. Signing him in the offseason and bringing him in with the Vancouver Canucks. For me, it's about, what's he got left in the tank. It's about what can he still give you at the offensive end of the ice. He's going to play hard. He's going to be physical. He's going to be, a little bit of an irritant on the ice. But he's also got to be smarter about, the penalty situations, because too many times last year, just undisciplined penalties, needless penalties, selfish penalties at times, especially during that playoff run for the Edmonton Oilers. But like I said, they're looking for some options. I think a couple players to watch out for here, because one thing we know about the Canucks is they saw their farm team in the American League, Abbotsford, win the Calder Cup last year. Well, some of these guys have a chance to win roster spots in training camp, out of training camp. That's going to be the interesting battle. One guy I think that could be a permanent member of the Canucks this year is Jonathan Lekkerimäki. I think there's a really good chance that he's going to be one of these players that you're going to be looking toward if you're Adam Foote, to be an offensive difference maker for this team. He got into 24 games last year, only 3 goals, 3 assists, and 6 points. But again, he wasn't really a full-time member of the Canucks. Played for the Abbotsford team in the playoff run last year. So that experience really should help him and enhance him and give him more confidence probably going into this season. Drew O'Connor, a full season of him. I liked some of his game with what we saw in Pittsburgh when he was there. We all love Connor Garland, a small man that plays big, as we like to say, on the ice, and he has certainly done that for the Canucks. It'll be interesting to see the bottom. Linus Karlsson, someone to keep an eye on, too, for this team. I'd be shocked if he is not part of this Vancouver team coming out of training camp. It's another guy that got a lot of seasoning in the AHL and was pretty good in that playoff run for them. Atu Ratu, keep an eye on him. Arshdeep Bains, Niels Aman, Definitely a couple of players there to keep an eye on as far as that's concerned. So I think when you look at this particular Vancouver team, it's going to be about how do they fill out the roster right now. Lekaramaki, is he ready to become a big offensive force? And you need obviously Elias Pettersson to be absolutely tremendous in a bounce back type of season, no doubt. Now, all those things got to happen, and I also think they're going to miss Dakota Joshua a little bit. With what he provided on the bottom six. Now, of course, a member of the Leafs. He was a very, very good and important player for them, oftentimes last year. And I think when you look at this Canucks team, they'll miss not only the scoring that he was able to provide from the bottom six, but that physicality as well. The blue line, Quinn Hughes, we love him. Who wouldn't? Obviously, captain of the Vancouver Canucks, and he's obviously had a great start to his NHL career. Phil Hronek, we just hope that he's going to be able to stay healthy this year. Tyler Myers, the Chaos Giraffe, as Rich let me know when we a long time ago that was his nickname. Marcus Pettersson, Derek Forbert, Victor Mancini. And don't forget about some of the other defensemen that could be chomping at the bit, trying to get a spot on the bottom pair, and the other Elias Pettersson. Tom Willander, too, to keep an eye on him, too. A draft prospect of the Canucks that I think might be able to get, a shot at this roster out of training camp. P.O. Joseph, Guillaume Brisebois, other depth pieces on that blue line. Blue line not in bad shape, and like I said, I think if we get some of those younger prospects, especially Tom Willander involved in there, that could be a big positive for the Canucks. And then in net, I think they're set. Obviously, they lose, Artur Shilovs, the outstanding goaltender for the Abbotsford Calder Cup championship run last year. They will miss him. That is unfortunate they couldn't get him back in the fold. But if you're basing it off Lankinen of last year, you should be fine in the backup role. Lankinen had a very good year for the Canucks last year. His best year, I think, as a pro, as a goaltender. So if he can duplicate that is. We can't go back to the Lankinen of before he was in Vancouver, where he was inconsistent and erratic. If we get the Lankinen that was really the backbone for a good period of that season last year when Thatcher Demko was out, that's going to be big for the Canucks. But can we get Lankinen playing at that level? Once again, is going to be the question. And, of course, Thatcher Demko. He's looked good so far in camp. He looks healthy finally. Everyone's been talking about how if he stays healthy, they still feel there's one of the better goaltenders in the NHL, that kind of caliber of goaltender in Demko if he stays healthy. So, like I said, there's potential for the goaltending tandem to be very good. We'll get Alex's thoughts when he talks Canucks because he's great with, evaluating the goaltending tandems. This has the potential to be a top 5 tandem if Lankinen can play well and if Demko stays healthy and shows that form we've seen from him in the past. But still, got to wait and see it first. And one last thing I'll mention before I send it to Alex is that I've heard a lot of things that the Vancouver Canucks are going to try to get their blue line and their defensemen jumping into the rush a bit more this year. That's really been something I've heard on some of the preseason broadcasts. It's something I heard when the great Dan Murphy of Sportsnet interviewed Patrick Alvin in a recent preseason game, saying we really want to activate the D a little bit more and play a little bit more of a aggressive style, and take more risks offensively. So something to keep in mind, because remember with Rick Tocchet, holding back a little bit was part of his DNA as a coach. And I think Adam Foote's going to want to try to get this team to be just a little bit more aggressive offensively and push the envelope a little bit more. So keep an eye on that we maybe see the defensemen jumping into the play a little bit more this season for the Vancouver Canucks. As far as my thoughts on the team, I'm neutral. I'm really neutral. I have not made too many moves on the Canucks. I want to see how they get out of the gate. Usually with a new coach coming off a bad year, I usually like to leave the door open for improvement. But I think there's still a lot of things I need to see. And I'm convinced now with what I'm seeing, too, from the forward group, if Elias Pettersson does not step his game up times 100 from what we saw last year, I don't think it's going to be easy for the Vancouver Canucks to make those big improvements from last year. Alex, we'll go to you. What do you think here, Vancouver Canucks?
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of question marks, and it kind of just lands me in. I'm torn between, do I feel like this is a team going down or a team going up? Like I said, you just kind of land on neutral, and it's not necessarily the worst spot for Vancouver. Like you said, when you look at this roster and this lineup and the core guys who are signed long term, you're fairly happy with the majority of the contracts. I would say you're top heavy, of course. That's the issue. Is that can you start getting some scoring consistently from secondary lines, the second, and it's like especially those third and fourth lines. You need a balance, because you're talking about being more open, but you also have to be a bit physical in the Pacific now. It's not just fire wagon hockey. You're going to have to compete with the size of a Vegas. LA is a team that always likes to play a little bit bigger. So to be in that race, you have to kind of match that style. Like you said, losing guys like Dakota Joshua, that could, loom, and we noticed that early on. But as we, get into the season, this is a team where, like I said, the boost of having a new coach and a new system should kind of propel them forward. It's a little rocky of a start, 6 of their first 8 games on the road. But at the same time, you're thinking if it's a new group and you need to build a new culture, what better to do than be on the road, have some time away from the family, let the guys gel on the road for a little bit, and maybe doing that early could help them. Where I think having a lot of road games early might hurt some teams and may actually help Vancouver in the long run. So it's a team where don't have anything futures-wise on them. I'll be looking to bet them from a game-by-game perspective. But like you said, their goaltending is really where it starts. They have one of the better tandems in the league as of right now. And like I said, it relies on Kevin Lincoln. He had an incredible run on the road last year. If he can do that, and that's what you want out of your backup, right? You want your backup guy to come in on those second night of back-to-backs, especially on those long road trips, and steal you a game or two. And Lincoln did just that in that particular role often last year. So if he can continue to do that, and of course, like you said, Demko finally staying healthy, getting his contract extension. I mean, these are the faces that'll be there for the next 3 or 4 years, certainly. But I think this is a good 1-2 punch. And I think Demko not having to be in a spot where he's got to play 70 games now, he knows he has a guy that the franchise relies on, and I feel, they have a good network and connection together. That's big for Vancouver. So to have stability in the net for honestly the first time since the Luongo days, that's big. Now you have to worry about, like I said, building upon the offensive group, and keeping those blue liners healthy. Quinn Hughes, all those guys. You look at all those guys. None of those guys played a full 82 games that are currently on this depth chart for opening night. You look at, like I said, Hronek played only 61 games. Pedersen, of course, went back and forth 28 games. Forbort 54 games. So those guys have to stay healthy, and you don't have much in the cupboard in Abbotsford. But to be fair, those Abbotsford kids played well, made it all the way through, with the Calder Cup final last year. And so you could see maybe some of those depth guys maybe come in if they have to be called up. Not so much just a really thin, just kind of group. There's a lot of hard-working guys on this team. And Tocchet, I think, got the most out of that bunch. I think his voice just kind of ran dead. If we can see Foote kind of pick up and carry at least the defensive mentality and mindset, but still, as you say, open things up, get the defensemen in the rush, be a bit more balanced, then this could be an exciting Vancouver team. Like I said, playoffs may be a stretch. Certainly, I don't see them winning the division or anything like that, but I don't see them bottoming out and being a lottery team either. So a competitive team, a feisty team, and a team that we can maybe find some value betting on during the season.
And as I turn it to Rich, I'll say one thing about Elias Pettersson, because him having a good season is going to be paramount for any potential to, I think, contend for postseason if you're Vancouver. This is not about your ability to make plays and score goals and set up your teammates and your offensive game instincts. We know you've got them. This is about testing your manhood and as a professional right now, if you're Elias Pettersson, because you were criticized by your coaching staff, management, some of your former teammates, a la JT Miller, who had a well-known public issue and beef and spat going on with Elias Pettersson, which led to him obviously getting dealt out of Vancouver to the New York Rangers. This is because he was criticized for lack of preparation last year by this Vancouver team. How do you get yourself mentally, physically prepared for games and for the season? Have you taken it seriously? From all accounts, Elias Pettersson has so far. Everything we've heard is great, but we need to see it play out on the ice now. It's one thing to hear that, hey, he's doing all the right things in the offseason as far as getting the preparation level to where it needs to be ready to have a great season ahead. Now we need to see it on the ice. And that's still where, to me, the debate is still out there as far as are we going to get that kind of a bounce back year from Elias Pettersson. Rich, you know this team well. You love them, good or bad. What do you think here, Vancouver Canucks?
Yeah, we've been following this team since the mid-'70s. So just, more of the same. And here we are starting a new season, and, everyone's optimistic.
What that means is that if anyone has street cred to talk about this team, you do.
That's right.
All right. Okay, so we're definitely starting with a new coach. We know we had a little divorce last year, and that's, takes time to settle things with the JT and with the Talkit. So we've got a guy who's never been a head coach before, who, if you looked at his resume, and he wasn't a member of the Vancouver Canucks, probably, and didn't have a name next to it, just his resume, probably wouldn't be the top of most teams' lists. Okay, so this is the first of a couple of questions I'm going to ask, and the answers are either it's a question mark or it's a vote of confidence. So you can either give it a check mark or a question mark. And I'm going to start off with the coaches. So we've got Adam Foote, Kevin Dean, Brett McLean, and Scott Young, all new behind the bench. Is that a question mark or is that a vote of confidence?
Yeah.
Question mark. Yep.
All right. So yeah, Adam Foote, he did coach for Kelowna Rockets for a couple years back in 19 and 20. Lasted 2 seasons. Kevin Dineen comes from Chicago and Boston. Maybe you can hear a little bit of Alex on that. Brett McLean from the Minnesota organization, and Scott Young was actually with the Canucks in player development. So I don't really know anything about any of these guys.
Yeah, I
To me,
mean,
there's a little makeshift staff and what they've put together. Foote learned under that's the thing that I'm optimistic about. You learned under Rick Tocchet, pretty good coach, and I think, and what I like too is that he's not just keeping everything Rick Tocchet did. I actually kind of like that he's talking about, hey, let's be a little bit more, let's take some more offensive risks this year, which is not really a Tocchet thing. This is an Adam Foote thing. Either that or the management's telling him, hey, we want to try to be a little more, get the defense involved. But that's part of being a more aggressive offensive game plan. So I kind of like that part of it, that it's not just, I'm rolling out the exact same system Rick Tocchet employed. We're going to make some tweaks to things now that I'm the head coach.
Yeah, apparently Jim Rutherford gave a 40-minute talk the other day, and somebody was quoted as saying he can say more in 40 minutes than most GMs will say in 3 hours. And it's really true. And one of the things he said was he described it as a more simplified system, which is a bit of an oxymoron, because if it's more simplified, that means it wasn't simple. You know what I mean? It sounds like it was, right. We're going from complicated to simple. So it's just a simplified system is what I would call it. And that means a skating team with lots of pressure. So it should be exciting. It should be fun. Getting back to our questions or our confidence, Ian, you mentioned EP40, and that's the big elephant in the room.
Do you really need my response as to check mark or question mark with that guy?
He's 26. I think he got married this off season to some hot blonde model. No big surprise. Making 11.6 million.
She probably weighs more than he does.
Well, apparently he's put on 9 kilograms this off season.
Okay.
So, question or confidence?
I hope so.
I'm going to say confidence. I think he has a better year this year. I mean, he obviously can't. I can't imagine him having a worse year than what he did last year.
Still a question for me, but I get it. He's doing all the right things that lead you to believe so far. Yeah. That lead you to believe he'll be better and could dominate. But I got. Will he
be a Hart Trophy candidate? No. But will he look more like what he did in previous seasons? Yes. So I think we see a big upswing with it. I think he's at least.
Let me just jump in, Rich, and say something too about Elias. We're not asking him to be, you're right, Hart Trophy candidate. Just get closer to what we saw 2023, right? He had 34 goals that year, 89 assists in 82 games. He stayed healthy for the full year. If he gets anything close to that, I'll take it. I'm happy.
He had 15 goals and 30 assists in 64 games last year. 45 points.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
All right, next up we have Brock Boeser. Now, I love this guy. I've got his jersey. But, this was a clusterfuck of epic proportions in terms of they tried to trade him. They couldn't get anything for him. It went past the trade deadline. I forget who we were trying to get that we were fortunate not to get, sort of like a Milan Lucic thing. Somebody, I can't remember. It was a center, maybe from New York or somebody. And then we circled back and got Brock. So that's not like, it's not the best way to sign a guy that's been with your team forever and is supposed to be your gunslinger. Now he is signed till 31-32, so that's for 7 years.
Yep.
So is Roenick and Pedersen. Demko is signed through 27-28, so he's the next one.
Yeah.
We think his injuries are
current deal. Yeah,
are past him. It's all old news, apparently. He's adjusted his training, and mentally and physically, he's supposed to be in a good place. Now, the one thing that I love about Thatcher Demko this year, he wants to make the Olympic team.
Oh, there you go. The forgotten man, right? Because everyone thinks that's a goaltending crease that's loaded already with, Ottinger and Hellebuck. And, where's the room for a guy like Swayman? And where's the room for a guy like Demko? Yeah.
Okay, so next guy on the list is Captain Quinn, the mighty Quinn. He's only signed till 26-27. So it's not a matter of his on-ice performance. It's a matter of where does he want to be. And I keep on hearing Bobano in the background and that wonderful singing karaoke voice of his. And I keep on hearing these two songs. I'm old enough to remember Fleetwood Mac and Dreams. I don't know if you know the first line of that song, Ian.
Yeah. I can't believe the first line of it.
Now here you go again.
Yes, there you go. Yeah.
You say you want your freedom.
You want your freedom. Yeah.
Who am I to keep you down?
Yeah.
So what does he want to do?
Yes.
And how enamored is he with this franchise? Now he's got his teammates like the Bessers and Demko's, the Pedersens. There's the core of sort of the family, but there's his real family in America. The other song I can hear, because I'm old enough to remember the Who's original farewell tour, which was in 1982. I saw them when I was 15 years old in Seattle.
Doing one right now, a farewell tour, yeah.
1982 was their farewell tour.
Yeah.
Was that 40
years?
40 years.
Yep.
At the old Seattle Kingdom, which is long gone. And the Clash opened up for them. And that song that I keep hearing is Should I Stay or Should I Go? And that kind of sums up, Quinn, because the guy's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. That's you got to.
He missed, I think, 14 games last year, something like that.
Yeah,
and scored 76 points, and his over/under this year is 84.5. And then the one that's doesn't fit in the age group. All these guys, 26, 27, 28. Hughes is 25. Demko's 29. Is Evander Kane. He's 34. Is that a question mark or a vote of confidence?
For Evander Kane?
Yeah.
I'll go question mark. Not like totally anti-Evander Kane, but enough that I got a question mark with it.
I think
you worry about his durability at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he didn't play any regular season last year.
Yes.
Right.
The thing I like most about Evander Kane is it's a contract year.
Yeah. So there'll be incentive to have a big year. Stay out of the damn box. That's all I tell him, too. Stay out of the penalty box, man. You can't be taking these dumbass, stupid, selfish penalties like you did last year. That's got to stop.
Respect your teammates and respect the team. Yeah, by keeping yourself in line. Yeah. Don't cost your team. And then the last question mark or check mark would be Philip Hedl as a second line center. For a whole
durability, right? This guy, every year, it seems there's an injury waiting to happen right around the corner. So it's got to be question mark for me. If you could say guaranteed Philip Hedl healthy full season, I'd say confidence. But do I know if he's going to be there? Best abilities, availability with that guy? I don't know. So question mark.
I don't know if this hit the radar much, but we lost one guy already, Niels Hoglander. He's out for
8 to 10
like
weeks.
8 to 10 weeks.
Under the radar loss too, because
Yep.
he's an effective player, especially when he's on his game. Yep.
Yeah, so that's definitely going to give Lekaramaki a spot because that's going to be.
Yeah.
So now you got him up in the top 6. Not great. So the odds to make the playoffs, Canucks were plus 100. They're now 105. To miss, minus 30, which is now minus 135. So that kind of tells you everything that the experts think in terms of putting money on where your mouth is. To win the division, it was 12 to 1. It's now 14 to 1. To win the conference, it was 22 to 1. Now it's 28 to 1. But figure this out. To win the cup, it was 70 to 1. And now it's 55 to 1. I'm not saying bet it.
Yeah, that is odd movement.
So if you look at this division, the way I see this division folding out or finishing would be Vegas and LA at the top and Seattle and San Jose at the bottom. That leaves Edmonton, let me start again. Vegas and Edmonton, first and second. Seattle and San Jose, 7th and 8th. So that leaves LA, Calgary, Vancouver, and Anaheim in the 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't see the Canucks being at the top of that group of 4 to make the playoffs. I think Calgary can beat them. I think LA can beat them. And it wouldn't shock me at all if Anaheim could beat them in terms of regular season points. Just if you look at the teams playing against each other. So I have the Canucks finishing 6th, which pays the same as them finishing 3rd because their sweet spot is 4th or 5th. So it's 5 to 1 to finish 6th. I'm sorry, Canucks. That's where I've got you. I just wanted to briefly mention how bad the regular season schedule is to fit in the Olympics. It is so squished.
It's so condensed. It's mind-boggling. Yep.
Alex mentioned that they play a number of games on the road and that might be a good thing. It might be a good thing if they had time to actually be together. Yeah. So game 4, which is October 16th, it starts 5 and 8 games on the road. They play Dallas, Chicago, Washington, Pittsburgh, and Nashville in 8 days. Then they come home to a back-to-back in 3 and 4 with Montreal, Edmonton, and New York Rangers. Then they go away for 3 and 6, St. Louis, Minnesota, and Nashville. And then the first game home is against Chicago on November 5th. That's 12 games in 20 days. And 10 of those games include travel.
Wow.
Yeah.
Last year, the Canucks were 2 and 6 on back-to-backs. They have 9 back-to-backs in the first 40 games. They had 8 all of last year.
Wow. Look at that difference. 8 all of last year, 9 in the first 40 games this year. Keep in mind, too, with Vancouver, we talked about all the road games and the condensed road schedule. They actually were a better road team last year. They have more road wins than home wins. And we often back the Canucks on the road quite a bit. I remember some of those road trips. I'd be back in Vancouver, and they'd go on a bit of a run. They'd come back home, and they'd go fall back in the tank again. That's kind of what happened at times last year.
One of those 2 wins on back-to-backs was actually a shootout win against Seattle, so you have to put an asterisk next to that. And the other one was that crazy 3-0 win in Toronto when their flight got screwed and they had to take a bus, and so that was literally the only game they won on a back-to-back all year in the regular season. And listen to the monsters they lost to. They lost to Nashville 5-3. They lost to Pittsburgh 5-4. They did lose to Vegas twice, 3-1 and 3-2. They lost to Anaheim 5-2, and they lost to Utah 3-1 right at the end of the season when they were trying to make the playoffs.
Wow.
So 3 of those losses, they gave up at least 3 goals. The other 3 losses, they gave up 5 goals. So the one thing that they do have going for them is the tandem in goal. Because when you're playing 12 games in 20 days and 10 of those games have travel, you might need 3 goalies.
Yeah, you need a
Yeah.
stable tandem and a duo that you can count on, that you do have no worries or concerns about throwing in there at any given moment, the backup, when you're dealing with so many back-to-backs and so many games in a short period of time. Yeah.
It goes back to Lincoln being able to copy and paste what he did on the road early last year.
I think he set a record.
Yes.
Yeah,
Like
he did.
10 wins in a row.
1 consecutive road games, road starts.
10 straight wins, and then his first 2 losses were overtime and shootout losses. So he didn't have a regulation loss on the road until his 13th or 14th start.
So in terms of going to the Olympics, I've got Quinn Hughes, Petey, Bluger, Hronik, and then I want to go Demko. So it's a fairly light, like the team's not their best. We don't have a lot of great guys that are going, is basically what I'm saying. Whereas some teams are going to be more taxed, I think. Right. And then you've got the different ice surface. So you have to acclimatize to playing on Olympic-sized ice and then come back to this. And then injuries, like I would not be playing a lot of like high total overs this year with the condensed schedule, with injuries, with going, if these players are going to the Olympics or not. I don't do a lot of futures. I'll probably be cheering for Bedard and Celebrini to make the team as much as any of the Canucks.
Yeah, we'll see with, by the way, the thing with the Olympic teams too, just off topic just for a second, but just because you played for the Four Nations teams last year doesn't guarantee you're going to be on the Olympic team this year. And just like people that missed the Four Nations team doesn't mean you can't have just a scintillating October to January this year and put yourself in at least the mix, or at least give the management groups of these nations a chance to say, you know what, this guy's having a hell of a season. I know he didn't make the Four Nations team, but how the hell do we keep him off the Olympic team with the way he's playing this year? There's going to be cases like that. Maybe a Demko, maybe a Bedard for Canada. Who knows? Maybe Bedard just goes wild for Chicago, October to January, and all of a sudden, if you're Canada's GM there, you're thinking, geez, we may have to put Bedard on the Olympic team, even though he didn't play well enough to make Four Nations last year. There's going to be cases like that.
For sure.
And just a note too, they are using NHL dimensions for the Olympics this year. They voted on that, I think, a couple of weeks ago. So I was looking that up. Yeah. So it will be 200 by 85 for the Olympics.
So it will be NHL sized ice.
Yeah. Which is good. Yeah. No. So which they need, and that's needed, because like you said, you don't want to have all of your literally star guys in the league having to come back and adjust to an ice rink size in the middle of what's the important run of the season. You shouldn't have that. So yeah, I'm glad that they got that straightened out.
No doubt.
In terms of player props, DeBrus scored 28 goals last year. They've got him at 23.5. If he stays healthy, just tip-ins in front of the net, I think he's going to get that many. He's the only Canuck that has a goal prop that I could find on Bet365. So if that doesn't tell you, and it's at 23.5. Right. So if that doesn't tell you something about the team's scoring woes, you're not paying attention. They've got Pettersson at 76.5, and he had 45. So Quinn Hughes is at 84.5. It's a bit high, but who else is going to score or assist for the team? Demko 25.5 wins. I don't know, because you're going to be splitting the load.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I would stay away from that.
I maybe feel comfortable about regular season wins with Demko just because of the injury history. Never mind.
That's what I'm saying. I'd maybe go under.
Yeah,
that's why I think this year is more about unders than overs in terms of just when you factor in all these crazy. We haven't seen a schedule like this, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, and the other sad thing is their point total is exactly what they had last year, 90.5. That's nowhere near getting you in the playoffs.
No, like that won't. There's no doubt. For props for me, I'll just throw a couple out there before we wrap it up. Brock Besser. Now, minus 165 is not a cheap price, but I did take it at minus 165. Brock 30 goals or more. The Brock star will show up here for the Vancouver Canucks this year. And again, this is part and parcel with playing with Pettersson. We expect Pettersson to be certainly a facilitator. Obviously that's one of the strengths of his game, seeing the ice, being an assist man. And Brock Besser is going to probably reap the rewards of that. So 30 goals for Besser, minus 165. And then the guy on the left wing side, most likely with Pettersson, is going to be DeBrusque. And I'll just sprinkle at FanDuel as well, the plus 410 for him to hit the 30-goal mark. Now, that's pretty, ambitious to expect Jake DeBrusk to hit 30 goals, but I think it's possible, being alongside, Pettersson in the playmaking. And that's going to be a line that's going to have to really, be, carry the weight, if you will, offensively for Vancouver. So those are the two player props that I took with Vancouver, although I'm a little bit more bullish on Besser to hit 30 goals, which is reflected in the price that they expect him, obviously, to have a much better chance to hit 30 goals than DeBrusk. So those are the two props I looked at. Rich H., before we run the ads and wrap up the preview video, anything else you want to add?
A couple more things really quickly. Since Adam Foote has been with the Canucks, we've done really good at shot suppression. I think we've allowed like 28 or less since he's been around, but we're only getting around 25. And we were 23rd in goals for last year. So that's not too great. Now, I saved the best for last. There's a kid that just won't not make the team, and his name's Braden Coots. And he was the 15th overall pick. He's 18 years old, and he's trying to be the first Canuck to be 18 years old and make the team. Can you remember the last one? You got to go way back.
Make the team. Pavel Bure, Trevor Linden?
Trevor Linden did, but after Trevor Linden was Peter Nedved was the last one.
Oh, I wouldn't have guessed Nedved. Oh, good one.
Oh, okay.
Nice. A little Canuck trivia here, yeah.
So this is a quote from him. He said, "My goal is just to show people I can play here. Make the coaches be like, oh, maybe he's got a shot. Maybe a little noise there. I'm a competitive person. I'm not just going to be there for the experience." And what did
interesting, good quote.
Ahead of the curve is what Jim Rutherford said. Ahead of the curve.
Okay.
And so because we're so short up the middle, I think they'd be better with Ty Mueller or Max Sasson from Abbotsford.
Yep.
Because, give the kid 9 games.
Right. Yep.
Send him down to Seattle. He's the team captain. Get 100-point season. Go to the World Juniors and just be amazing next year. But that he is a bright, shining hope that it's not supposed to be where he is. So it turns out that he's a really good pick. And the sky's the future for him. So I'm really excited about him. And then Ian, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but the Canucks have added a regional broadcaster to their home games. And I know you love broadcasters. So
yeah, I know Tyson Berry recently
there you
retired.
go.
Congratulations to him. He'll probably do well. I think he'll
Good
do well.
Vancouver Island boy.
Yeah, no doubt. He's going to be, I think, in the studio mostly. And he'll fill in, on occasion for Dave Tomlinson with Shorty. That's what I've heard.
Okay, what I read was home games.
Yeah, he'll be occasionally in the booth when to fill in for Tomlinson, and he'll be in the intermission shows and the pre and post game intermissions with Murph and all them. So that's the plan, but it's good. I mean, he's probably going to be a pretty solid broadcaster, I would think, Tyson Berry. So good to see him added to the Canucks crew. Good
up in the
there.
Jim Robson Gondolera or whatever it's called.
That's right. The great Jim Robson, who, of course, one of the originals as far as Vancouver play-by-play voices are concerned. Rich, that's a hell of a job. Great stuff. Great insight. We appreciate it very much. Hope you all enjoyed it. We will wrap it up in just a moment, right after we hear from our great new smoke sponsor of the Ice Guys show, our friends at Royal Cannabis.
Royal Cannabis, where the kings and queens shop.
Check it out, 20% off, promo code IceGuys, royalcannabisshop.com. There you have it. That is our Vancouver Canucks season preview video. Our thanks to Rich H. For Alex B. Smith, Rich H., I'm Ian Cameron. This has been your Vancouver Canucks season preview video as 32 teams in 32 days rolls along courtesy of the Ice Guys.